Hello. Welcome to this special... What is this?
Star Wars? We don't even know. It's a special podcast of some kind.
We're just going to talk about Star Wars.
I was expecting the drum roll from On the Spot.
No Episode 7 talk. I'm talking prequel, Episode 1 through 3, hardcore, in-depth discussion. Where does Andy Skywalker come from? 1 hour.
Did you say Andy or Annie?
Annie.
Oh, okay. They said Andy for a
like
second. I heard Andy for a moment.
No, fuck that. We're going to talk about...
The reason why we're doing this, and this is a podcast where we're going to talk about nothing but Star Wars, including all of Episode 7. So if you haven't
Probably
watched
mostly Episode
Star
7.
Wars yet, you're like the one person in the world who hasn't seen it, because it's not, what, 1 billion,
Yes.
0.2 or something like that?
Can we start this discussion by talking about... And sorry, I'm going to derail us a little bit. When is it acceptable to publicly talk about this movie?
I think
we've been through 2 weekends, one of which was a holiday weekend. The movie has broken every record. It's made over $1 billion.
Right.
I think all bets are off.
I think right now we're definitely at the point where you could talk about it in any venue that you want to. It's totally fine to do it. I think really, honestly, after opening weekend, I think that was fair game at that point. Mm-hmm. Because anybody who was a fan would have gone to see it opening weekend.
Yeah, and I didn't get to see it opening weekend, but I didn't care at that point. Well, I mean, I did care, but at that point I knew that was on me.
Yeah.
Right. It was like, if I didn't see it, whatever. I mean, I'm not going to... I'm the person at fault. I'm the asshole.
I had a guy call me out on Twitter like last Friday for something that I said on a previous podcast, and that was a full week after everyone had an opportunity to see it. And, you know, he was just mad that I was spoiling it. It's like, you're way past that at this point.
Yeah.
You know, it's one thing to be diligent and like avoid spoilers, but it's another thing to just not watch something and tell other people they can't talk about it.
Right.
So anyway,
so we're making this special thing so that people are warned. We're going to spoil it. We're going to talk about it.
We're also doing this because everyone has asked us about every 20 minutes to have a spoiler cast for Star Wars. And I don't want to say spoiler cast. I don't like the word spoiler cast.
Yeah.
Because it makes it sound like we're intentionally spoiling stuff. That's not what it is.
Or that we're spoiled.
It's a warning. It's a warning that we're just going to be talking about something in depth. So if you haven't seen it, don't watch it. Yeah. We're not intentionally spoiling anything. Like the fact that Rey is Obi-Wan's daughter. Or it's not.
Let's start by saying how many times has everyone seen the movie?
I've seen it once.
Okay.
Nice. 3 times.
Marcus took my... Let me tell you something why Marcus saw it twice. This is Marcus, by the way. Marcus Laporte. You guys know his work from Immersion and Laser Team and everything else. Marcus, I bought tickets for a bunch of people for Friday at 11:30 of opening weekend. Friday at 11:30 a.m. And then we moved our company-wide all-hands meeting, which is usually on a Monday. For the end-of-the-year big one, we moved it to Friday at 11 a.m. So I was like, sorry, everybody, we can't go now. And Marcus is like, okay. So Marcus missed the big meeting, and he took all the extra tickets.
when we were in that meeting, when Matt proposed moving the all hands meeting to Friday, I was like, I don't know, Matt, that's not such a good idea. I think we should do it on Thursday. And he was like, no, we'll do it Friday. I was like, I don't know. Seems like a bad idea to me. I really tried to fight it, but I didn't win.
How many times have you seen it?
I've only seen it once.
I've seen it once as well. We also had a company-wide screening for it on Saturday, where it was like, is that the one where you saw it?
No, I saw it on Wednesday.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't go to that.
5 times.
5 times.
I saw it last night.
Marcus?
Again. 2, yeah.
Chris?
3.
All right, so these guys, this is the expert catch.
So I tried to, on Saturday, this past weekend, on Saturday, I thought I want to watch it again. So I was going to look for a showing on Sunday to go watch it. And every showing I looked up at the Draft House, the only seats available were in the front row. Yeah. So I decided I didn't want to watch it from the front row. So it's crazy to me that the movie is still that popular and that many people are watching it.
Last night I was buying a ticket to Alamo at 7:30, and I was like, I'll go to like 10:30 to watch it before we do the podcast. And at 7:30 there was 3 seats left.
Wow.
And I like, it's sold out. It was a sold out show Sunday night at 10:30.
You know, like the biggest day of Titanic was like months afterwards.
It was Valentine's
Day, but it was like the movie had been out for a couple months.
I remember that really well. That movie just made like $30 or $40 million a weekend for like half a year. It just never ever stopped.
Yeah, it opened big and then stayed in the top 5 forever.
I want to say it didn't even open at number 1 of its opening weekend, but that would be kind of crazy.
I don't think so. I would believe it but I don't think that's what happened. That movie just had a crazy crawl where it continued to grow. But Star Wars, I was really pleased with the movie. I think there were a lot of things that I was unhappy with in Episode 7, but every single thing I was unhappy with can be written off as, they're going to expand on that. That's building for the future.
Yeah, but I don't like that.
Right, but
I don't like that.
It makes me not like it in this movie at this moment.
Right.
And the biggest culprit of that is Phasma.
I agree.
Who We saw 25% of her total screen time in the fucking teaser.
Now, do you think that was intentional that they were designing characters to mislead people? Because I feel like they did the same thing with Finn.
Finn got the short end of the stick because that was a total red herring. He's the Jedi. He's the focus of this movie.
They showed him with a lightsaber.
Not even force sensitive, probably.
I like that they did that though. I like being surprised by that.
I do too, but I really am looking forward to episode 8 because I think Finn deserves some mega redemption.
But I thought Finn was a great character, though.
He
too.
was, but he worked in sanitation on Starkiller Base, and he was just kind of like he just had a lightsaber, but he got his ass beat twice.
That's the thing. How is it that he worked sanitation on Starkiller Base, but was also a stormtrooper who went down on a mission?
I think. Well, no. Apparently, that was his first mission.
taking out the
Up
trash.
until that point, he was working sanitation.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. And but that leads to another thing I didn't like about
I think that was
movie.
just to set up the trash compactor joke.
I'm sure.
That's the whole
but-
purpose of that.
Another thing I didn't like was the uncertainty of Finn's fate at the end of the movie.
Oh,
So you see him get cut by the lightsaber, and then he's laying there.
Oh, across the back, yeah.
Right, and then Rey
hit
says,
him in the spine. Yeah.
"I'll see you again," or whatever she says.
I mean, he's going to come back. I think he's already signed on for the rest of the trilogy.
right. But I'm talking about what you see in the movie,
right.
not the metagame of what we've read.
I'm interested in seeing like if he's going to come back and he's going to have some sort of like Vader, who was they cut off all of his parts. Like I'm sure he'll come back, but I'm wondering if they're going to have like some sort of
metal spine.
robot suit or
that sounds cool.
something like that. Cyborg.
I wouldn't mind that. That sounds fun.
There's about a billion things to talk about, but when you talk about that kind of thing, about cybernetically bringing somebody back, who do you think that they might bring back from the first 6 movies? Who might they bring back that they have not yet? Like Lando, for instance.
I
Lando's
think
gonna come back.
there's a chance with Lando. I think he's pretty old though.
They're all really. Did you see Harrison Ford?
Yeah.
Pretty rough.
I mean, listen, they all
moving a
look
little
great, but
slower.
it was kind of tough to see. Like I remember when I went and saw Indiana Jones 4, I felt Harrison Ford was looking a little old for an action hero then.
Yeah.
But now in this one, they just felt like senior citizens, and they were like legends in their own time, basically.
Yeah, they
where
were.
Finn and Rey didn't even know who they were, or didn't know that they were real people, basically.
Right.
And
They,
they met Han
they
Solo.
had elevated to like mythical status.
I think after the response that they've been getting from 7, I think that they're going to be kind of weary about bringing too much back from the old universe because a lot of people are saying that they're going over old ground. It's an episode 4 reboot. So I think they're going to be kind of careful. But I mean,
I
they have
felt
like
that way
Akbar
after walking out.
and Nien Nub. So they'll bring back other characters, but it's not going to be like, I think, yeah. They're not going to try to do so much of the same stuff in the next movies.
Do you think that at this point that there's still enough time for them to be that reactive to criticism or that reactive? Like, don't you think that maybe the script is already locked in and they know where they're going and what they're doing at this point?
They might have the big picture stuff, but they could change like the execution of like how do they blow up the giant Death Star, like that kind of stuff. And also, I think they purposely made this one very similar to the old one so that people could like identify with it and feel good,
Yeah, I mean,
you
you
know.
still want the audience
But
to
I think
connect to that.
with the next one, they aren't quite as like locked in.
Why is it that we had to have another big planet starbase that blows planets up?
I didn't like that.
I didn't like that they
It-
did a literal dick measurement. This is the Death Star. This is the Starkiller Base. It's like fucking massive.
It's like it was already kind of eye-rolling in Jedi.
Yeah.
And then to see it again, it's like, oh no, but this time it's like a planet. There's like snow and mountains. Like, oh,
Because like if you think in Empire Strikes Back, the Empire is still this huge foe and they're fucking terrifying. And they didn't have a super weapon in Empire Strikes Back. They were just like crazy. So I think that
They had Vader, right?
yeah.
I mean, that's the thing. It's like I feel very defensive about George Lucas a lot of times because people just love to bash on him.
Nah.
But he made something that we all love. I mean, whether or not it has faded over time, he still made episode 4. Like that was his thing that he made, and wrote. Sure. Yeah, people helped him, of course, but it's like that's the thing that we've all like loved for the last 40 years.
which you can no longer purchase in high definition.
Really, you can't buy it at all?
You can only get the special edition.
Oh yeah, that's
Wait, are you talking about the? Well, you can get a '93 Laserdisc though, a 1993 Laserdisc.
That's not high definition.
Well, sure it is. It's Laserdisc, still digital. It's pretty. I mean, Laserdisc preceded.
Is it a
CDs,
480
so-
resolution?
Well, okay, yeah.
I mean, let's define high
Yeah,
definition.
Okay, well, that's the highest definition that you can get.
there's no
without-
prints of it. Like there's gotta be
It's
some
better than
collector who has a
VHS.
print,
Yeah.
right, of it.
Disney's going to capitalize.
I almost don't think. I don't
Yes,
think. you
certainly
would see it.
Disney knows that that's what everyone wants. Why
They're
wouldn't
clamoring
they
for
get
it.
another
What is it-
excuse
but
to
what is it about
resell
episode
the same
4?
thing?
What is it about episode 4 that you would take out besides the Jabba scene with Han?
There's
the
a lot of
Jawas.
like when they're approaching Mos Eisley. There's like robots doing stupid things like for comedic effect in the foreground.
Oh, okay.
I rewatched
Yeah.
it fairly recently, and it's distractingly jarring.
Adding like
know-
like
you know what's
Jax
really-
Dewbacks and all that.
I think it's really more Jabba and Han, the digital.
Return of the Jedi was way worse to me.
That
You know?
scene in Jabba's palace
Yeah.
with the I watched both of them back to back,
Jedi Ross.
and it completely like it's this weird thing where they're trying to add comedy to this like dark
Yep.
like murderous scene, and,
Yep.
and it completely ruins the scene. Whenever the dancer gets pulled in and gets killed in Jabba's palace with
Oh,
the singer,
gotcha.
the lip.
Yeah.
Oh, when they replaced that. Oh, that is really bad.
I want to say too is that like about George Lucas is probably one of the best people at making villains. He makes incredible villains. And I think he was like the first person I can recall where the franchise became as much about the villains as it did about the heroes. Like people would buy Darth Vader action figures and they would dress up as Darth Vader
Yeah,
and they loved it.
Want to dress as Darth Vader, and
Yeah.
they clearly have seen through the
Yeah, like nobody dresses up as the ghost from
evil.
Ghostbusters, you know? And it's like, if you look at episode 7, this is the problem I had with it. If you look at episode 7, even if you go back to what we all consider to be the shitty movies, like the prequels, you could take any villain from the prequels and put them in episode 7, and they're a better villain than anybody else in episode 7. Kylo Ren didn't do anything for me. The Starkiller base was just like, almost like an afterthought. I mean, they blew up, you know, a dig measuring contest, they blew up 5 planets, right? Is that
as the star system is where the new
Republic was? And they blew it up and they wiped out all the people.
Not Coruscant.
Not Coruscant. And watching 5 planets get destroyed, you could not have cared any less. But watching that scene with, and this is a very low-level villain in the original Star Wars, you watch Grand Moff Tarkin talking to Leia and then blowing up Alderaan, you're like, oh shit,
Well, I
that's,
feel
a,
like
that's a
you see that a lot more
hard
up close.
scene.
And like the 5 planets are destroyed. It's like, oh, it's kind of.
But you don't see anybody on Alderaan. You saw people on the New Republic planet, which was a very prequel shot, by the way.
Oh, yeah,
Where they're
yeah.
all looking up at the sky.
all the, like,
The
myriad
issue-
of
the reason-
races.
That felt like straight out of the prequels.
Well,
to me.
because the planets they blew up were just they're like we're gonna blow up 5 planets, and there was no like background to it. But in A New Hope, it's like that was their destination. Whenever like Obi-Wan, like we have to get there. We're traveling
and
here.
it's her home planet.
and,
they
and
made
she,
a-
it's her. It's like so you feel it like this is the
Obi-Wan's
goal
like,
of the movie is to get here. And also they
Millions
blew
of
up the goal of the
voices
movie.
cried out, and then we're suddenly
Yeah.
silenced. So the reason
But that's what
that
I'm saying. It's a better scene. Of
yeah,
and it makes
absolutely.
Grand Moff Tarkin a way worse villain than even Darth Vader is in the first one.
it's
And he
ICG.
compare him to Hux in this one. I mean, it's like, holy cow. You pine for the days of Grand Moff Tarkin. Anyway, you were going to say.
Well, I was
Blaine.
going to say, so I think that they were going to have a little bit more build-up for that planet that was destroyed. The reason that they showed that and they focused on this one character, it was this black chick, and she had this little alliance thing. It was like the same thing that the Resistance guys were wearing. There was supposed to be a scene between her and Leia, and you're supposed to learn more about the New Republic and why there is a resistance that exists, because apparently the New Republic is a little bit corrupt. So Leia wanted to make her own military branch to fight the resistance with the support, fight the New Order with the support of the First Republic.
Yeah, I felt like that was one of the more confusing parts of the movie was the whole New Republic and Resistance and what was the relationship between them and what caused that. But again, it's like you want to avoid too much political talk, 'cause then you end up with the prequels all over again, and a boring scene of politicians arguing trade embargoes.
Well, I was talking to Brandon. They basically did what they did in A New Hope, whereas Moff Tarkin comes in and he's like, that's no longer going to be a problem because the Senate has been dissolved. So they just basically just level the playing grounds. We destroyed the Senate again. For episode
So
7.
I had it's a really small beef, but it is a beef with Starkiller Base. And when they're doing the attack on it, and they're like they're on Starkiller Base, and they keep saying, once the sun goes out, then it'll be fully charged. They keep saying, once it has fully drained the sun, it'll be fully charged. That's just a fucking star, right? Like ours is the sun. That's what it's called.
Yeah.
All the other ones are just stars. It's Starkiller Base, not Sunkiller Base.
So I think the sun is your star, though.
No, the sun is our star. That is the name of Sol
Name of ours?
for the solar
Sol.
system. Right.
Right. It's Sol.
Right. But like a random star is not
the sun.
the sun.
Because if it's an alien world technically to us, then why would it be using the same
Right.
name?
And they didn't even say like if they were in a system or if it's just like some random star
when
with
that star is dead.
Right.
Yeah, they said
When
the
you
same.
when you think about Star Wars, do you think of them as speaking English, or do you think about it as we're seeing essentially a translated version of
speak,
whatever?
They speak basic.
They speak basic, right?
Yeah.
But it's basic English, or are we hearing like a translated version of it?
It's different.
Yeah, it's like the
Their
Coruscant
alphabet is
base.
different and everything else. Like you don't see English letters and anything.
Right.
So I had the feeling like they were just kind of translating into our language for this thing.
Well, I mean, like they
But they have the word star.
I gotcha.
They base like a day is still 24 hours. It's 365 days is a year because it's based off of Coruscant's. Coruscant basically has the same kind of like setup that Earth has.
does.
Well, so you said the whole thing about the sun though, but like I mean they've been doing that all along in Star Wars, like binary sunsets. How many suns does this planet have? Like you know
Tatooine has
they've
two
mentioned
suns,
on other planets.
The Star Wars scholar.
But JD, when we walked out, he immediately asked me. He goes, "So it sucks up the sun to then shoot at a planet and destroy the planet?" And I'm like, "Yes." He goes, "If it sucks up the sun, it kills all the planets." And I was like, "That's a good point." It's just like park that thing and just suck up a sun. You're good.
That's what I said. Why don't they just go to the system that they want to kill and suck up the sun there and then just leave?
Or
Everyone will die.
I was
have it
wondering about
shoot
that.
the star in the system and destroy a star. Because then it destroys everything anyway. It's not like
Sitting in a dead system would be like more suffering than an instant death anyway.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
The well, one, I think people could escape if that was the case.
Yeah,
If
okay.
the sun disappeared, but
Right, they would guarantee death.
I think you could. I don't know if this is true, but a star, they could suck up the star, and then the star could still like regenerate its fuel or something. I don't know, and keep burning. So maybe it just has to recharge.
my opinion, that star's gone because the light went out and it was gone. Also, I told him it also shoots across a great distance. Like it shoots from one system to the next, and like you sucked up the star in this system. How shitty would that be too if your star got sucked up to shoot a planet in another system, like 800 light years away, and you're like, what the fuck?
We're
We need
getting
that
we're
star.
getting into the age-old argument about Star Wars, which is it sci-fi or is it fantasy? Like is it space fantasy or is it science fiction?
Space fantasy. I do
space
not want to
fantasy.
hear Neil deGrasse Tyson
I don't give a
criticize the
shit
scientific inaccuracy of this movie.
yeah.
So the interesting
No, I
thing,
know,
another
yeah,
interesting thing
I agree with
about
that.
Starkiller Base was it reminded me of that story that came out a couple of months ago about the star that scientists on Earth observed that they speculated might have a Dyson sphere around it, where it was theoretically possible that there was something constructed to suck the energy and harness the energy out of a star.
It was blocking. Our view of the star was blocked on a regular basis.
Right. So when
And
they-
like 70% of the star was blocked.
Yes, Hux. Yeah.
Yeah, so when they described the method in which Starkiller Base worked in Episode 7, the first thing I thought of was the Dyson Sphere story that came out a couple of months
That's
ago.
interesting.
I thought the concept though for Starkiller Base is pretty cool, and I thought the sort of juxtaposition of the interior like cave sort of spaces blended with shiny plastic and metal and
It did look really
it's
cool.
beautiful.
That's the set designer in
Yeah,
there.
I
Yeah,
mean,
what do you think of the
how
overall
can you not like
design
that,
as a
you
whole?
know?
Like they had to blend more recent films numerically that were actually further away in technology for us.
Sure.
You know, they're made in the 70s. And they had to mix that with like stuff from the prequels that was obviously like much shinier and everything else. I thought they did a good
they
job
did
with
a
it.
great job because it still felt like the old '70s era movies, but it still felt fresh enough to be like a now movie.
It definitely felt like Death Star hallways and stuff like that.
Just beautiful, all that shine and like how they were able to light that without having lights be in the shot all the time in those reflections. It was pretty good.
I love the design of the X-Wings.
I was
Yeah.
just liked how everything was dirty.
Yeah.
You know, like in the prequels, everything's pretty and clean and everything. But and then like
Not when they're on Tatooine. They're
Well,
pretty dirty there.
the,
But
no,
then, like
no,
a
I saw
silver
the
ship they fly in and
Yeah,
everything.
Well,
Yeah,
it's
it
like
looked
there was
Flight of the
texture to
Navigator.
everything. It felt like every even
patina,
stuff like
they had,
C-3PO
layers.
having a red arm. It's like, oh, something's the world kept moving. You know, like
let's not even get started on that.
Well, you're going to go into a whole expanded thing about
But, like,
C-3PO.
it just felt
apparently another robot sacrificed itself for 3PO and then he gave him his arm.
Right.
What? How do you know? What is that?
It's this whole other storyline.
There's like a visual dictionary that's out right now.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of,
JD
sort of
has
hidden
it.
information in there. And they talk about it being like a sacrifice that
a robot
you know,
made for-
another
Wait,
droid
just gave him
made.
his arm? Is that really a big sacrifice for a robot?
I don't know.
I
Maybe
think
it's like
there's
an
other
organ
stuff.
donor, you know? I don't know.
Did he kill himself
Or
to
is
give him
it-
an
So
arm?
you were talking about C-3PO, and that reminded me of something else that pissed me off. So did R2-D2 have the entire map except for that one section this whole time, and was he just being an asshole and powered
that's
down?
that made me mad too.
Right. I'm like, what the fuck is going on with that?
Yeah.
know, so-
What was it that triggered R2 to come back on?
That was the other thing.
I think
was
it's
wondering.
Ray. Force sensitivity. Or there was something like, as soon as Ray showed up, that's when R2 powered back on. So I think she's like the reason that he powered back on.
But Leia was there before, and Leia should also be force sensitive.
Okay. Yeah.
I thought it would be Luke, and he just felt like
be his
okay,
lightsaber. It
something
could be his, I
terrible
was gonna
just
say,
happened.
could be his lightsaber, but even still, that was
No.
still kind of
Finn was there.
shitty. Like that R2-D2 was just there the whole time, and
Oh, it could have been his lightsaber coming back. Yeah.
No, because Finn was already there at the base, the Resistance base. He had
He
a
had
lightsaber.
the lightsaber with him? Okay.
I guess I was
See,
thinking
that's
that
the
Luke
thing too
giving him
that's
permission to wake
great
up,
about the
so-
Star Wars universe and the way they've constructed it is that the Force is like manipulating these events to kind of go in a certain direction. So if in the middle of the galaxy, two people end up on the same planet, on the same continent, in the same building at the same time, it's just like, okay, that's fine. You know, like they run into each other in the middle of the galaxy. That seems totally appropriate.
Yeah.
I liked the line that the exchange that Han Solo and Finn had, where Finn says, "Oh, we'll just use the Force to fix it," and Han Solo's like, "That's not the way it works." It was probably my favorite exchange in the entire movie. I think.
That and the BB-8 thumbs up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which it was a thumbs up.
It was a
flipping.
thumbs up.
Yeah, people are saying it's flipping him off. It's a family-friendly thing. If it's a thumbs up.
And-
Plus, he did what he wanted. He's
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
He's like, got
he
his
was
back. Yeah.
agreeing.
yeah, and BB-8's a nice droid. He's not mean. So
BB-8's an interesting. I love BB-8, but
Dude,
he's so
fucking
interesting
great.
from a scale perspective because he's actually pretty big.
Yeah.
He's like half the size of R2D2.
Yeah.
I always got the feeling because when we saw him in the trailer, there wasn't really any scale around him. I thought he was about the size of a soccer ball.
Right.
I
Yeah.
thought he was gonna be a tiny little thing, but he's actually pretty decently sized.
I love all of the pictures and animated GIFs people are posting online. Like, look, this is the way BB-8 works, and like none of them are the same. Like every single one of them is different, and no one has it figured out. I just love that BB-8 physically exists,
Yeah.
and is a real item that they had to interact
My
with.
kid has one.
God,
Yeah.
when I saw that thing at Celebration, like the minds of the entire crowd was just blown collectively. Like it rolled out, and we were just like, "Is this happening? Is this happening?"
The weird
Oh,
thing
yeah,
too
see,
is
there's
like
the
people had a
scale.
kind of a negative reaction to BB-8 in the first trailer. Like they thought it was stupid and too cutesy, but I thought it was perfect.
When I saw it, I was like, "Oh, that's not practical." And then when it is practical.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
it's
a bunch
totally
of people
practical.
were afraid that it was computer generated
Yeah.
and it was gonna be like the prequels all over again.
So fucking good though.
Well,
I'm sure there were shots where it was computer generated.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
there has to be. Yeah.
But
Well,
it
even
still
Neil
exists.
deGrasse Tyson thought the whole thing was digital, and said that a ball would just spin indefinitely in the sand. It wouldn't go anywhere. And then someone had texted him or tweeted at him showing him a video of them actually using the real thing, and he was kind of like, oh.
Yeah. Fuck you, Tyson.
So that was pretty good.
He'll always shit on Star Wars because he likes Star Trek better.
he's part of that Star Trek lobby.
So, I mean, overall, I thought the movie was great. I don't know, we were talking about first impressions. I think it's up there, better than the prequel trilogy, and about on par for me with Return of the Jedi. It still doesn't do it for me in terms of like how Empire and A New Hope does. But I think the reason that it wasn't that great and it was like rehashing old ground is because like it's establishing this new universe. And I think like episode 8 and 9 are going to be like crazy different. They're not going to have as many references. I'm excited for 8. It's
I
gonna be
think
fun.
this movie sits above A New Hope for me, just because there's a lot more going on early in the movie. A New Hope starts with the Star Destroyer overtaking Leia's ship, and there's all that stuff, and then you spend an hour on Tatooine.
Yeah.
With like a couple of small things happen, and then you leave. Like this movie, at least there was some action and some things happening early on in the movie that spiced it up.
First half of the movie was incredible. Once they hit the smuggler ship, and then
Then it gets a little like muddled.
and then Maz Kanata was like, okay, it's slowing down, and then as soon as Leia showed up, it was like it pumped the brakes, man. It slowed down way more.
Yeah, I thought the Maz Kanata sequence, like when they go to her bar, I thought that's where it like really slowed down for me. I was like, okay, we're doing a lot of exposition here, and
Carrie Fisher she's not doing it for me anymore.
I thought she was fine.
I think her
The first
performance
time I
was rough.
saw it, I was like taken aback, and maybe it was also like seeing her, my old perception of Carrie Fisher, and this is the first time I had like really seen her as Leia, and I was like, it took me out of the scene for a bit. And
She's
the second
so
time,
mellow in this movie. She's
Yeah.
she's like almost like talking out of the side of her mouth half the time. Yeah,
she does have
Yeah.
very kind of grandma feel.
yeah. She just was
You
like
just put that cigarette out and then
yeah,
waltzed
But-
on in.
yeah.
The second time,
change for
it
the
felt
character.
better because I think I was expecting it, and I knew, but she still, I don't know. She didn't feel as good as old Leia.
Well, yeah, I
A
felt like
sense of
Han,
urgency.
yeah, I felt like Han Solo like maintained some of that. He did have some bigger moments like with Chewie, but like even like little moments where he goes, "I'll do what I always do. I'll talk my way out of it." And he starts arguing with Chewie back and forth. It's like those moments of like where Han Solo gets knocked down a peg. We're still there, you know. And watching him react and be funny, that were great.
Speaking of Han Solo and Chewie,
I
had he never fired the bowcaster in all this time?
That bugged
never.
me. That bugged me
Yeah,
too.
he's like, oh, I like this thing. Like, you've been with him forever,
That's
a
the
funny little
joke.
gag.
That's the joke.
for decades.
But that bugged me too. I was like, it seems like another situation would have occurred in the years and years and years they've spent together. in
Decades,
which,
right.
yeah, that he needed to fire it. Like, That seemed dumb to me.
I thought it was funny.
I don't know about
He's
that. I
reinforcing
don't know about
It-
that.
It's funny, but I fear a situation would come up where he'd have to borrow his gun.
Chewbacca probably never took the DL-44
All right.
blaster,
This is to me my biggest issue with Star Wars.
and I agree with this.
So Han Solo dies, right?
Sure.
And then they go back.
got like a cold
they go
sweat
back to
saying
the
that.
rebel. They go back to the rebel base, and then Leia goes out to see ship. She knows that Han is dead, and then she sees Rey, and they have this like sentimental moment, right?
Right.
Chewbacca gets completely shit on. She doesn't even acknowledge Chewbacca.
They literally
They walk
walked
right next
past
to each other. Now this is Han's best friend.
Yeah.
And this is Han's,
X.
And-
Dude, Chewbacca's
and
playing
they're
it straight.
old
He's like,
friends.
we don't talk anymore.
But they didn't.
He
it
made
just-
his choices years ago. That's great character. I
But
love it.
no, but to me, it's like she didn't even she didn't say anything.
Chewbacca
to him.
saved her from the original Death Star in Episode
Yeah.
4.
And it was just one of those things where I was just like, man,
That's cold-blooded.
it was. And it's like in the next scene is Chewie is crying.
Yeah.
Like
And then Han.
this made me so. I mean, I like filmed a rant about this because it made me so mad because I had to vent about.
But
Like,
could this just be like them reinforcing the importance of Rey though? And
well, I'm sure that's
what
what
it
it
was,
is.
but-
But it still felt. I'm still mad. 'cause it's
Character-wise,
like,
it just didn't match up.
Like
What if it
Chewie,
turns out though that you don't know that's like Chewie's like a huge sexist or something like that, and she knows that, and she's like she's done
she
with
just
it.
doesn't like Chewie.
She's
It's like,
over it.
It's like that he never supported their relationship, and it's like even that hug that they have whenever they see each other. It's very like
Maybe she's allergic.
Yeah.
Maybe she developed
Yeah.
an allergy and like she can't get close anymore.
Maybe they're not together because Han fucked Chewie. maybe he used the other bowcaster one night.
Well, so speaking of Rey, I mean, should we spend some time talking about speculation regarding Rey's heritage? or
Real quick,
lineage?
while we're on Carrie Fisher's performance, there was 2 scenes that I know were cut from the movie. One of them was actually in the trailer where Maz Kanata hands the lightsaber over to Leia, and then the other one was that one where she's meeting up with the new Senate or the Republic. Those were cut. My theory is that it's because of Carrie Fisher's performance and it just wasn't holding up, and they had to cut it from the film, which just sucks because like I don't know, that might not be the case, but I have a feeling that's what it was.
Well, she also had a much smaller part. I mean, you could claim that they were handing like Han Solo, like the classic male rogue character, like all the greatest moments in it. But then when you realize when he gets killed at the end, they kind of had to do what they had to do with that character because they weren't going to have him anymore.
Yeah, which is I think and people are like really pissed off about Han dying. Totally in support of it.
Yeah, I thought that
He's in support of it too.
all of them were going to die. I thought Han was going to die, Leia, and Luke Skywalker. Because I thought they're the older actors and they're going to bring them out, kind of do stuff with them, and then wipe the slate clean and start over with.
How great
new
was it though that
characters.
C-3PO like interrupts Han Solo? He just pops in. That was so great.
But I
how
mean,
much they still hate each other, or he hates
Han
C-3PO.
is easily my favorite character in the Star Wars universe. But like it just had to happen because it makes the whole thing a lot more tragic. It makes the New Order and Kylo Ren a better villain. Because I read an article that JJ was like, we can't top Darth Vader. That's just not going to happen. So we're going to do our best to like make this character like we're gonna come into it. He's not going to be fully evil. He's still struggling, but we're going to show his transition into full dark side by killing his father.
Yeah, but I get that. But Kylo Ren to me is like going back to the discussion about George Lucas making great villains. He undersells himself and his ability to make villains. He says it's very easy to make you hate somebody on screen, to make somebody feel something or to make a villain. You basically just show a kitten and then you have a guy strangle it, and that's it. Which is essentially, it's funny because I feel like that's what J.J. Abrams did with Kylo Ren. It's like where Han Solo is just like this thing we all love, and then, inexplicably a little bit, he just kind of kills him, like out of nowhere. And if you go back and look at, say, someone like Palpatine or Darth Maul, I mean, Darth Maul's a good example. I think he's way more evil than Kylo Ren is, and a way better villain in a lot of cases. He's definitely more two-dimensional. But there wasn't a moment where I didn't think, okay, Darth Maul is not a villain. His heart's not in this, or I wasn't like worried when he showed up on screen. With Kylo Ren, I was just like, him throwing a tantrum 3 or 4 times.
I love that. I thought
You like that?
That was a great character moment.
I mean, yeah, it's showing that he has the power, but not the training, or
It just seemed like
he's no control.
An angry teenager, like petulant. Like
well, it was.
That's fine. It's basically showing kind of like what Darth Vader should have been.
It's like everything you wanted Anakin to be.
Yeah, you saw Anakin. He was a whiny bitch, but he wasn't like a whiny bitch with a lot of power. Like I want to see him throwing the tantrums. He's for the dark side. They embrace evil and hate and anger, and we're getting to see that through this character. Like you never saw Palpatine or Vader freak out and get pissed off. You saw Anakin do it.
But it was like, sir, that's the life support. You really shouldn't be smashing.
You know what's
that.
crazy too is that the way they have to escalate everything over time to make it still be interesting to new audiences or audiences that are seeing a new movie. It's like The Force is probably the best example of that. Like in the first movie, The Force was like the thing where he could like convince weak-minded people to do stuff and then could like grab a lightsaber. Like that was a huge thing in Empire when he could like just get a lightsaber to come to his hand, you know? And then the biggest thing was in Empire, Yoda, who's the master of the Force, lifts up the X-Wing. Like that was a huge moment in Empire. Yeah. Then they got like lightning out of people's fingers, you know, every one of the prequels was throwing everything around. And now it's like he stopped a blaster bolt in midair. It's like they constantly have to do these things to make the Force ever more powerful.
Which I kind of didn't buy the whole blaster stopping thing. That was cool, but like we never saw Vader and Palpatine do something like that. I mean, Vader stopped a bolt with his hand, which was pretty dope. But that was, I think, making him more powerful than he should have been. Because like that's Kylo Ren's like super fucking powerful if he's able to stop a blaster bolt.
I think that's what they're trying to show.
Walk away and just ignore it, and
But
then he like walks.
It didn't back up later when he got his ass kicked.
Yeah,
You
but
know?
he was injured.
When he's fighting, he was injured. I feel like I neglected that when I was thinking about it later. But yeah, the battle between Finn and Kylo Ren, I was like, what's going on here? It's like here's a Sith apprentice.
That plays into my whole thing with.
He's not a Sith, is he?
No.
Yeah.
No. He's. But I do think that.
Okay,
Rey,
wait, hold on a second. What is he? He's not a Sith, so
He's a Knight of
Snoke.
Ren.
Snoke's
It's
is.
a new thing.
I think I would consider him a dark Jedi, which is someone who's not formally, trained in either practice. I think they're just kind of considered dark Jedi, but he's for the dark side. So, which I think. Oh God, where was I going to go with that? Snoke, though. So his Kylo Ren's lightsaber is an ancient design. It says that in one of the descriptions. So my theory is that Snoke is supposed to be an ancient Sith who's been reawakened.
I've heard speculation that Snoke is Darth Plagueis.
Plagueis, yeah. That makes sense because he's
It
injured.
does.
He's got the cut in his head, which you can assume was from Palpatine when he tried to assassinate him.
Well, and he's supposedly the only Sith that's cheated death, and that's part of the storyline in some of the early ones. And
He's like a zombie.
So how did you feel, Marcus, about the design of Snoke's?
well,
Snoke.
I mean, I didn't.
Snoke or Snoke's?
Snoke.
I
Thinking
didn't
of
really like.
Snopes.
I think it's Snoke's.
I didn't really like any of the all digital characters, really.
Not even Maz?
I mean, I like her as a character, but it's just
I liked her.
I
liked her.
I have to always look at something, and once I'm like, okay, that character is completely digital. I have to make the decision to get past it now, or be bothered by it. And so sometimes it always breaks the fourth wall just a little bit. But I'm open minded to it, and I like the characters. I know that they're important. I like the voice acting. The performances were good, but
You know what's crazy to me,
some
though?
of the bigger characters just always look hokey to me when they're all digital.
I agree, and it's like, and I think it might be casting too, because it's weird that I can see like Harrison Ford in like 3 different movies, or Liam Neeson, or who's Obi-Wan? What's his name? Ewan McGregor. Thank you. Go see him and go see those guys in movies all day long and other things. Then go see a Star Wars movie and have total suspension of disbelief and see him. I don't get that with Andy Serkis. When Andy Serkis is performing a digital character, I just see straight through to Andy Serkis every single time. And so Snoke to me looked like Gollum, or like Caesar from Planet of the Apes.
I didn't know that Xerxes did that.
I didn't know either.
on the first viewing, but I did on the second.
Yeah.
and it definitely changed my viewpoint a little.
I could see through it without even knowing that he was playing the character. I'm like, this looks like Gollum, or this looks like, the mannerisms and everything that he does with the face look the exact same.
To me, the thing that bugged me about it was it didn't seem like he needed to be CGI.
No,
It's just a dude sitting. I mean, and I'm sure, but he's humanoid.
I
It's
see
not
makeup
like,
on that level on The Walking Dead every single week.
Yeah, it's like why didn't they just make him practical?
No,
I don't
what they
know.
should
That's
have
what I
done is
didn't
they should have made him
know.
extremely alien and really weird looking, or just a deformed human with practical effects.
I think a
I'm not crazy
deformed
about
human
that.
with practical effects would have been way creepier and weird.
And also, I wanted to maybe why doesn't he have a cool fucking mask? I'd think that'd be cool if he had like a giant Vader mystery guy.
Just cover his face.
I understand these are all valid points, but I'm really curious to see what Snoke looks like once he's not projected. I feel like there's a loss of what he actually looks like.
He's not a big guy. I'm assuming he's going to be. I'm not like people are like, oh, he's probably going to be like Wizard of Oz, like he's going to be like 3 feet tall. I don't think they'll do that.
No, he's like average. That's what I was thinking.
Yeah, but like It'll be interesting to see fully what.
And what he actually looks like in motion and like without the video effect on him.
I was really freaking out. I was like, when it kind of took me out a moment when they projected him so big.
Oh,
because
you
I was
thought
like,
he was a giant?
yeah, because I was like,
I
how
did,
are
yeah.
how are they gonna fight him? Like, how's a lightsaber battle? What's his lightsaber gonna look like?
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know?
I had the same thing. And I was like, I was glad when I saw that it was just a projection.
Yeah, same here.
It does seem like that would more than level the playing field. there.
yeah.
Wandering through.
Oh,
He's riding on an AT-AT. Just comes in, swinging his enormous
He's got an AT-AT on a
lightsaber.
leash or something.
Were you trying to bring up Ridley and who she or Daisy Ray?
Ray, yeah.
First of all, I feel like we're being especially critical about the movie. What did everybody like the movie?
Oh, I love
Fucking
the movie.
loved it.
Okay.
I've seen it 5 times. I love it.
That's the tough part with Star Wars is that everybody talks about Star Wars like they hate it, but we all love it. I thought it was
I
great.
think it's because we love it so much.
Listen. I thought the first. The movie was what 5.5 hours. It was about what?
2 hours and 20 minutes.
2 hours and 20 minutes.
Yeah, 2.5
The first hour and a half were just almost perfect. They were incredible.
I completely agree. Like that was like just perfect. Like there was
Right.
everything felt like it was just moving, and I was never lost. But it like still.
Yep.
And then they get in the middle, kind of like
With all new characters discovering stuff on the way and everything,
Yeah.
everything felt fine. Like we haven't even talked about Poe. I think Poe is like one of the best characters ever in the Star Wars universe.
I thought, when Kylo Ren stops the blaster and they're interrogating Poe, I thought that they were going to do something like he was going to let it move slowly and then start like burying
piercing
into Poe like a torture thing there. So I wish that he had played around with that frozen
Maybe
blaster a
that's
little
a
more.
setup for
But I was momentarily put off by the first dialogue between Kylo Ren and Poe.
No, it's so funny.
I was a little bit put off though because it was like way conversational. It's like, oh, is this gonna? I thought it was gonna be like a Star Trek level reboot of Star Wars.
You can talk first.
Yeah, I don't know how this works. And there was like, I can't hear you through the thing.
But that's cool because like Poe is like that's a cool character.
Exactly, and he's just giving shit, like trying to show him that he's not the least bit afraid of him. You know.
Are you comfortable? No, not really.
And the shot when they're at the bar castle with
Maz Kanata's.
Maz Kanata's place. And Finn is running and fighting on the ground, and Poe's over his head in an X-wing, flying and
that was
shooting.
awesome.
That
That
might
shot
be
was-
the best shot ever in Star Wars.
I got chills last night, seeing again.
That was-
every time. Just
that
thinking about
shot
it.
is fucking
that.
amazing.
Even the best thing about that shot was seeing it the second time because I was watching like the sky. The first time I was like trying to figure,
Yep.
but I knew where to look, and it was so awesome.
And then it comes back down. We see him just kick ass up there, and he's blowing up stormtroopers. And then it comes back, and like Finn's running and blasting dudes too. And it's like, this is so cool.
And then he's like, that's a pilot. And then he cuts to Poe in the cockpit. That was
a pretty dope moment.
That's
That was
one of
really
the moments. That's one of the many moments from the movie that I'm glad they didn't spoil with the trailer. They did a really good job of showing restraint with what was shown of the movie before
They
it
did a
came
good
out.
I thought they did a great job
with the
all trailers.
exception of Han and Chewie getting in the Falcon,
Also,
We're home?
the TV spots.
which I didn't watch. So they were bad.
Oh, the TV spots. They started like I started tuning out because they revealed that fucking cool battle with the nightstick,
The stormtrooper thing?
traitor. That was so cool.
Could have been Phasma.
Phasma, yeah.
It should have been Phasma.
Should have been.
Phasma should have also been in one of the TIE fighters that chased them on Jakku.
Imagine a chrome-plated TIE fighter.
You know what?
Sweet.
Dope.
I was so into the whole Phasma thing. I bought into the misdirection so much that when they went to go steal the TIE fighter, when they first were on, where were they? They were on Hux's ship, and they went to go steal the TIE
Right,
fighter.
yeah.
Got Ren's, yeah.
Yeah, and when Finn is escaping, and with Poe, I thought they were stealing Phasma's TIE fighter because it looked so different. And I thought, oh, they're stealing the badass TIE fighter because Darth Vader always had the one with the curved-in wings,
Right.
But it was just a TIE fighter. There was like, and correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Did they or did they not show in the trailer Phasma flying a TIE fighter?
No, it was one of the pilot because they showed some of the pilot troopers. God, the stormtroopers look so fucking cool, and there was a ton of them too. There's snow troopers and all this, but no, it was just a regular pilot. He just had it's black, shiny.
Those are my favorite scenes though in the movie. Or the interior of the TIE fighters. Because they reversed the color scheme. It used to be like gray with black thin lines, and now it's all black with the white gray lines. And so all the interiors look really great. And just like the silence, there's no sound, there's no calm action happening. It's just this faceless, silent person, thing with this, and they're all black. Like the stormtroopers are cool, but they're still white. They're still like that, like, oh, they're all white, But seeing the
Pilots.
like darkened version of those was.
I was
That's
surprised
my
to find out that
favorite
it's a 2-seater craft.
Yes, I was
Yeah, I
also
think
really
that's-
surprised about
didn't
that.
they
Oh,
change-
there we go.
That's it.
Yeah, there you go. Those are my favorite scenes in the
So
whole
Yeah,
movie.
that looks cool.
And the original TIE fighters, the reason that they wear those masks is because they sacrifice hyperdrive and life support for the speed and just like small size of the TIE fighter. So it kind of took me out of it when they were both in the seats and then they were both without masks.
It's been 20 years. They figured something out.
I guess.
Yeah, they invented the thing.
The thing.
That fixes it.
The breathing thing.
Well, then why do the stormtroopers have?
Listen, if Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon can bust out a thing they bite on that lets them breathe underwater, I'm sure they could come up with something for a TIE fighter.
The big shaver that they had.
For the projector.
Yeah,
no, for the
Qui-Gon.
communicator. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure.
Oh,
it
I'm
was,
taking
yeah.
your blood for midichlorians. Blah.
Because that was really bad.
Yeah.
I mean, that was
That was a big shaver.
they are way better than that.
Yeah.
And just any good prop person would have been like, huh? Yeah. And I definitely did a double take on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So should we talk speculation about where Rey comes from?
She's
who,
not-
who abandoned her.
She's
No,
not
we talked
Skywalker's
future
daughter.
speculation, episode 8. Everyone thinks Phasma is being set up for episode 8.
I
don't know what you're setting up there.
I think she'll be in one of the intermediary movies.
Okay.
No,
or something.
Yeah, but
no,
that's-
not Rogue One.
Rogue One goes back.
It's not gonna be Rogue One. It's not gonna be the Han
not?
Solo because she would have been born by Rogue One.
Rogue
Yeah, no,
One
that's
was
true.
like
What
episode
if-
3.5.
What if? And I was setting him up because I was expecting that. What if she's really old? Like we don't know. We haven't seen. What if there's like some kind of life extending surgery or like some technology that she's using to extend her life?
Well,
artificially?
because in the Star Wars universe, the Empire or the New Order, they're Zionists or what was it called?
xenophobes.
Xenophobes. So they're all human. And then there's also kind of like a stigma against what is it called, like cybernetics, like prosthetics and stuff like that. So I don't really buy into that. If she's the same age as Gwendolyn Christie, the character, then she would have been born by the time that Rogue One was out.
Okay.
So that's I mean,
Is it possible that she could be? I mean, she was easily convinced to shut down the shields.
She's not a double agent.
Is it possible that she's a traitor and she's just sort of
I think
lying
it's possible
in wait?
she's just a shitty soldier.
Yeah, I think it's just a badly written character. She's not a double agent though, because otherwise they wouldn't need Finn's intel to get into Starkiller Base, and they probably would have evacuated her knowing that they were going to blow it up. So I don't think.
But we
she's a
don't even
double
know what
agent.
the hell happened to her. I mean,
Well, that's
Trash
true.
compactor
Yeah,
she
we
got
don't
out.
really know. They don't. They just sort of ended at that little joke about the compactor.
She's confirmed for episode 8, so she'll be the Boba Fett.
so there were people who worked in the film blogging world, and they were all like saying Gwendolyn Christie in the press junkets didn't have anything to say, and everyone was like really frustrated. Like she must really like not be into the movie. It's like no, she just
wasn't
doesn't know anything
in the movie.
because she's not
That's
in
it.
the movie at all.
Yeah.
She's in what, 2 scenes? Has like 4 lines total.
I think maybe 3, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
It's-
she's
and
in
you
the
can count it on one hand
shuttlecraft with
easily.
Finn. She's on the planet when they shoot the village, right? She's there.
Yep.
Yeah, she gives the order to kill.
And then she's in the scene where they just pluck her out of the hallway, right? That's
Yeah,
it.
they put her in
Well-
a hallway and then she just does whatever they say.
Well, she comes in and remember Finn takes his helmet off and she gives him a hard time.
yeah, that's
She's
at the
like,
beginning.
That's in the shuttlecraft.
Yeah.
That's in the when they come back.
Andy Young said
She wants to
went
see
in-
his blaster.
It's like
ammo.
a minute and 38 of screen time, I think, for her. It's like a minute and a half of screen time for her.
Wow.
Total, Phasma.
Disappointing.
Ray is not Skywalker's daughter. I'm holding to that.
Who do you think her parents are?
So I jokingly said that she's related to Obi-Wan. I don't think that that's the case either. I can't think that she's a Skywalker though.
Is it important? Does it matter?
I mean, I feel
Absolutely.
like that's a big
family
hanging
drama.
question people have.
By the way, when somebody in the Skywalker family sends out like a birth announcement, does everyone else go, "Why are you having?" Just fucking like this one family is like literally like destroying the entire galaxy as they fight each other.
Stars are getting sucked up.
Yeah, they're on both sides.
Yeah.
It's like, well, it's a dark versus light. It's like, no, it's really just you guys. Keep your shit in your family. You guys are fucking it up for everybody.
Have your own planet.
So I don't know that Rey, like her lineage, hopefully maybe won't be important. You know,
It has to be because they're setting it up. Because when she touches the lightsaber, it's like, and even Maz was like, "That was Anakin's," and then now it was Luke's, and then now it's calling to you. So like,
So then,
I hope
how do
that
you
she
think it's
isn't.
not Luke's daughter then.
I hope that she's not Luke's daughter.
she's
If
not
all that precedes
she's not
the-
Luke's daughter because when we see the flashback, she's a kid looking up at the starship flying away.
Yeah.
She's at that point old enough to know who her parents are, and also she's heard of Luke Skywalker, knows him as a legend. So if she knows who Luke Skywalker is, and is also old enough when she's dropped off on Jakku to know who her family is.
Unless her mind has been affected by the Force, and
Oh,
someone
God,
has
here we go.
intentionally
Well, there was
wiped
also
portions of her mind.
There was a doll in her downed AT-AT that she calls home. There was a doll with a red Rebel Alliance spacesuit. So like,
Yes.
there I think
she had a
there's
helmet too. that she wore.
Yeah,
But
But it seems like that helmet just came from the wreckage that she
probably
was
salvaged it.
scavenging,
Yeah.
you know?
Okay.
And that was just a foreshadowing that she's going to be a Jedi.
The thing is, though, she speaks. She knows how to speak Wookiee. She knows the ins and outs of pilots or ships, as if to say that she's like an ace you know, whatever. So like she's showing a lot of similarities with Luke and Anakin. Sure. My theory is that she might be a clone. So they find this lightsaber. Maz, where'd you get that lightsaber? That's a story for another time. I'll tell you about it later.
Yeah,
so,
that's definitely when I talk about people ending up in the same place and the Force like guiding that. The lightsaber just ending up in this bar in the middle of nowhere in a storage room was like, that's an important thing. He's not just gonna like leave it out and go, oh fuck, what did I do with my? No, let's get a new one.
I
got drunk and left it at the bar.
Last time we saw that lightsaber
falling down a chute.
Empire Strikes Back, best spin. It gets cut off. It still has Luke's hand on it, so it's flying away with Luke's hand. Somebody finds it. It's probably attached to Luke's hand still.
Oh, so it's Luke that he lost in Empire.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes a little bit more sense. I thought it was
It's the blue one, and that's why in Jedi he has the green one.
So they have
Gotcha.
DNA from Luke Skywalker
Gotcha,
from his
okay.
hand, and they
I
cloned
totally
him.
missed that. I absolutely missed that.
So,
They clone him as a woman.
Yeah.
You solved the big problem that I was
Ooh, I like
suspending some
that.
disbelief that I didn't need to suspend.
and
So
I
it is the
talked
lightsaber that he lost when Vader cut off his hand.
So say
Okay.
this again. So you're
makes sense.
saying that they took DNA from Luke's hand and,
They find-
cloned him, but in a female form?
Yeah, they find Luke's lightsaber. It's severed his severed hand, floating around in space.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Then they find it and they DNA.
He is very important. Everyone is trying to find him at the
Yeah,
beginning.
I
But
mean,
then I don't know who would have cloned him, and then why would they have stuck his clone on Jakku?
I don't know.
Would you think the Rebels cloned him, or you think the Empire cloned
I
him?
do not have these answers.
Okay.
That spaceship, it didn't look like it was. It looked like a rebel type spaceship or like something from the Republic. It didn't look like a first.
I mean,
order.
I did
they could have
notice-
cloned, and then the rebels like stolen the clones and then hid them or something.
You know what the first thing I'm gonna do when this movie comes out on home video is? I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna make the special edition of it immediately. Like before Lucas had a chance to. Like when the ship is pulling away from Finn and she's crying, I'm gonna have the ship, you're gonna hear, Misa leaving!
Did it.
Because you wonder, like, I would be really interesting to like sit George Lucas down to interview, go, okay, what would you add to these movies?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm a huge
What was wrong with them? How would you fix them?
I'm a huge fan of the special editions. What would you add to these movies?
Finn. We also don't know who's Finn's parents are, and I think they're Billy D. Williams is going to be. He's still there. He's doing voices for Star Wars Rebels. I think they're going to bring him back. I would kind of be pissed off if they're like, oh yeah, that's Lando's son.
Well, listen, Kylo Ren has pretty dark hair. I don't know. I was wondering about that too.
The seed is strong.
I was wondering but the thing to me about Rey going forward is she's going to be training now with Luke. So Luke is now going to be in place of Yoda, and Yoda died
And Obi-Wan.
in Return of the Jedi. You know, so it's I think they're keeping some parallels pretty closely
Even
here.
in the wardrobe.
Luke will
I mean,
die.
he's wearing.
Yeah.
He's basically wearing Obi-Wan's, like outfit.
But Han Solo was the Obi-Wan character in this one, right?
He was the older.
He was the
who
older
got
guy, and he-
sacrificed.
which is cool
wise-
for his
the
character to
wise
make
one.
that full transition of being the guy who never believed in the Force to then being the person who's educating the new Force-aware people about what the Force is, leading them on an adventure, and then getting killed. I mean, there's a lot of parallels. I'm one of the people that sees this movie as not being quite a sequel or quite a reboot. It's like somewhere in between.
I want to see more Jedi.
Is it
a
possible
requel.
that Han can be a Force ghost or no?
No,
No,
Like not at
No,
all.
that's something that you have to learn.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like what they say is like they, and who knows if they've retconned this or not. Is like they have to willingly undergo that and make that decision and change right at the moment,
Qui-Gon.
right before
Right.
death.
Like
Well,
just
no,
shift all that transfer power up.
It's something that they set it up in episode 3. Yoda's like, hey, I have some extra training for you to do. You can talk to people from the dead. Qui-Gon did it, so then now you can assume Qui-Gon, Yoda, and Obi-Wan are able to communicate as Force ghosts. There was also something else that they cut. There was supposed to be... We were supposed to see Anakin Skywalker. We were supposed to see Hayden Christensen as Anakin Skywalker as a Force ghost. And apparently there's like this struggle going on where he's a split Force ghost where he's half Vader, but he's also half Anakin, so it's light and dark. And that's part of the issue that Kylo's having is he doesn't know who to listen to. It's these two ghosts vying for his attention.
Because I always wondered, like, it's like surely if he has, because he says show me again, grandfather. He doesn't say show me.
Yeah.
He says show me again.
so he's communicated with
So
him.
he's definitely getting something. So if that's like what's that all about?
Also, what's his training that he's going to complete? Snoke's like, we need to complete his training. What else is he?
I think part of that was just because he got his ass kicked so bad. They need to like. Oh, he's not done. He's
Like,
gonna be.
we
He'll
need
be
to teach
back.
him, we need to teach him how to use a lightsaber.
Yeah.
or control, like just
When he gets
control
back,
in
he'll be-
general. Like
yeah.
being more like that meditative sort of internal, like
But those outbreak, those anger, like that was so cool. Like that was
yeah.
him inflicting pain to channel the dark side.
Yeah, no, that was
That was cool.
Well, and it was clearly intentional too, because they would pan down to show the blood.
Blood, yeah.
And it was like that. He was He was drawing energy from his own pain.
I think they also wanted to do that to keep reminding you that he's hurt.
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
that's why this fight isn't over yet. It's like, oh,
I will say though, the bowcaster blew 3 stormtroopers up in one blast.
No, it was a propane tank. He had a propane tank.
Oh, he did? Oh, okay.
Space propane.
I tell you what I did like though. I thought one of the best nods to the original trilogy was it wasn't subtle, but it was like the fact that it was a nod to the original ones was pretty subtle, which is when Han Solo comes out of the rubble and everyone's shooting, and then he's just got his blaster and he's just shooting stormtroopers. It's like how much easier it was to shoot stormtroopers back in the original trilogy, and they couldn't hit shit, and he's just like back, just shooting all. It's like, what the hell?
He blind fired one. He was just like,
he just like
boom.
over his shoulder, he just shoots and hits
Every
one.
time I've seen that, I've been like, fuck! Like, it's just so cool. But the stormtroopers were actually effective killers this time around.
They were.
Yeah.
And that was like a throwback. I thought that was a nice throwback to them being just so awful.
They had a badass introduction too when they're like coming in the troop transport on a Jakku, and it's got like that flickering lighting. And it's like very much like Saving Private Ryan, Normandy kind of like landing craft. The back opens up, falls down, and they just like storm out.
It's pretty fucking dope.
Well, they made the stormtroopers like people with Finn. You know, it's like
Right.
okay, there's like you feel like there's story to them. As
I thought that was a
opposed
cool line too when they talked about the debate of their stormtroopers being humans versus using clones.
Yeah,
still.
I
that
like
was
that
the
a lot
one
too.
reference that I
Yeah.
could notice from the prequel trilogies. Like, maybe we should use clones.
Yeah.
It's like they have to figure out like how to explain that.
Yeah.
So it's like I thought that was a good explanation.
Yeah. Those were.
I was just thinking about other
Capable of treating
favorite
punchers.
moments and other favorite lines of dialogue from the movie. It was one kind of just like a quick throwaway that Maz Kanata has when Han Solo shows up. And she goes, "Where's Chewbacca?" He's like, "Oh, he's out fixing the ship." She's like, "I like that Wookiee."
Yeah, that was really good.
like that
Where's my husband?
Boyfriend.
Where boyfriend? Yeah.
Yeah. I thought it added like it was a way you knew like, okay, we're just seeing this character for the first time, but she's okay.
Yeah.
Like the Chewbacca and Han Solo are vouching for her, and there's like a level of trust there.
And Maz isn't dead. She was actually supposed to be appearing in the Resistance base, but they decided to cut her apart because she was just kind of standing there. But she's going to be back in the prequels, or sorry, the sequels. And I'm interested to see what they're going to learn from her because she's been alive for like thousands of years or 1,000 years.
Well, she had that cryptic line about I've seen the same eyes in different people, and then she was,
I thought that was a thing about knowing, like something about the way the stormtroopers were raised, or something where they're like have some sort of I don't know about being genetically modified to be the same type of thing.
No, I think she can recognize the same kind of type of person that they are.
that Finn wants to run.
Yeah. But like she doesn't know who Rey is. There's a part where she says, "Who is the girl?" to Han. She is not Han and Leia's daughter.
maybe she does know who Rey is, and she didn't recognize her. Like she knows of Rey, but has never seen Rey.
There's no chance that you guys think that Kylo and Rey are twins. And they're both Han and Leia's kids.
It's possible.
No.
But there's a huge age gap there, am I right? Late 20s versus early 20s?
Well, there's an age gap, yeah, because
Well, you can say sisters then. Sister and brother. There's no chance she's Han and Leia's
Siblings.
kid.
it can't be because like Leia and Han are interacting with her, and it's like they're just not acknowledging that that's her child.
Now, Han might not know. Han might not know because they split up at some point.
So maybe she's
So-
Leia's daughter from another husband?
No, she's Leia's daughters with Han, but Han, she never told Han. Like, after they split up, she found out she was pregnant and then was like, oh, well, we've already had this trouble with Kylo Ren, and she ditches Rey on Jakku.
It seems like she would have come, like, Leia would have come clean along,
It seems like it. That's why I'm bringing it up.
You know, like, all those events that happened in that episode would have been enough to want to, like, make that known to me.
You gotta fix that.
Like, all these... Like,
It would explain why she ignored Chewbacca.
you know, well, that's a little bit,
You want
maybe.
some quality mother-daughter time. But there's a set of books that came out after the first trilogy, which was the Timothy Zahn books, which were the extended story 7, 8, and 9 of Star Wars, which are now not canon. And Han and Leia had twins,
yeah.
and they
Some
were
Vong
central to that.
invasion
And the worst part about it was they had a villain that if they wanted to, they had the ability to take whatever they want to from the expanded universe and use it. There was a villain, talked about this in the regular podcast, in those books they should have absolutely used, which is Grand Admiral Thrawn. And they should have used him in place of Hux. Would have been 1,000 times better.
And then now with the xenophobia of the First Order, there's no way they can get.
Well, no, it's always been a common thing, but I think, yeah. Oh, fuck.
And I think
that would have been cool.
In the Zahn books, I think they even addressed that about how
Yes.
he was looked down on because he wasn't human, and he still was
Able to overcome.
right.
They also, I mean, they started incorporating newer, because I think they were like, we'll take anybody because, the Empire was getting destroyed.
Right.
So.
By the way, I mean, it's like I know the Empire has always been kind of a metaphor for the Nazis, but man, I felt it hard fucking core.
Yeah.
And that Star Killer scene, that was
no
pretty nuts.
Yeah.
I mean, that looked like you could have seen out of Indiana Jones. You just change a couple helmets out, and that's it.
Well, I mean, anytime you see red
Banners
flags that are
with
that
light.
size
Yeah.
with that sort of blunt architecture,
Yeah.
And that many stormtroopers.
formations, tight formations, it's
So what are the other loose ends that we need to talk about? We talked about Rey. Who the fuck are her parents?
Will Boba Fett come back?
Yeah,
That's what I was talking about.
Phasma had a
Sorry,
minute 38 seconds.
Do you think Darth Maul or do you think Boba Fett are coming back?
Darth Maul's still alive. Last time we saw him, he was back under Palpatine's control.
Saw him where? Last time
In
we
the
saw him, he was cut in half.
Star Wars: The Clone Wars. No, he's still alive.
Oh, in the Clone Wars, right? In the animated
And
series.
that's canon. And
Yep.
he's also he hasn't had any canon comic books yet. But yeah, no, they had this whole thing, and he finds his brother. And
Yep.
Yeah. So he's still alive, but I don't think he'll be coming back. I think
Okay.
it's too much
You
of a
think they
stretch.
out a floating disc or the spider legs or anything like that?
No.
No?
Obi-Wan.
Oh,
yeah,
there he is.
Obi-Wan's definitely coming back because let's talk about her Force vision. So when she initially touches the lightsaber, she backs away. The hallway, like the places she's in, this hallway appears. That's on Bespin. So
Right.
you can hear Luke screaming no after he realizes she can hear Vader breathing. You can hear Yoda. At the very end, you can hear Obi-Wan say Rey.
You know what they did for that?
Gun?
They took
really cool story.
he said afraid
Yep.
in one of the earlier movies, and they edited it so it's not, she said Ray.
Yeah, and then after that, these are your first steps. That whisper, that's actually Ewan McGregor. They did a recording, which makes me think that she's somehow related to Kenobi.
And one of the things I really want to do is I can't wait to get this movie on Blu-ray so I can rewatch the sequence over and over.
Yeah.
Isn't there speculation that when she is dropped off on Jakku, that she's got like a Padawan's little, I'm sorry, not a Padawan, a youngling's little
I didn't notice
braid,
that.
and that she's dressed like a youngling would have been from Jedi training.
That's interesting. I don't know. I'll have to watch that again. But there's that, and then there's also the Knights of Ren. They set them up twice. You see them in the Force vision, which is people. It's going backwards and forwards because you can see her at the Starkiller base about to fight Kylo Ren. So we don't know if she encounters the Knights of Ren in the future or not. But you see those guys, and then Snoke also mentions them. Who the fuck are those guys?
Yeah.
That's what I want to know.
I mean, they did that, some of that foreshadowing stuff a couple of times. Who is it? Is it Kylo Ren that asks her about the island in the middle of the ocean
Yeah.
during the interrogation? Like, she's been having these visions and seeing,
I can see.
forward into the
she
future.
doesn't know what any of it means,
Right.
So
What are the little moments in the films that are like really had a lot of emotional weight for me? Is I wasn't a huge fan of Kylo Ren. I really wasn't. I thought he was one of the weaker parts of the film. I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing some better villains in the next two. But when Han calls out to him and he doesn't call him Kylo Ren, he calls him Ben.
Yeah.
That was like, I thought that was a really cool moment because it's like they named their son Ben, this person who was so important to them in their lives, and they had all these hopes for this kid and everything. And it's just like that. And for some reason in that moment, learning that they named him Ben was like, ugh.
yeah,
that
it was a lot more personal.
yeah, it was.
He said it like a father.
Yeah.
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 God, that scene was fucking crazy.
And he ends up being the Ben Kenobi of the movie.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, to Han Solo, I mean, the whole first movie, he's talking about Ben Kenobi like he's a crazy old man.
Yeah.
Right.
Like he makes the deal with him to fly the Millennium Falcon, all that.
Yeah.
Were the callbacks too much to you guys?
No, I thought it was great.
I thought they were okay too.
I liked all the callbacks except for the callbacks that were like important parts of the narrative, like the Super Death Star and stuff like that.
There's a lot of that. I mean, that's just J.J. Abrams, though. You can watch the Star Trek movies and you can see like a lot of callbacks. But I mean, he picks up when he's looking for supplies for, I think, Rey or health stuff. He finds the ball that Luke was using to train when he had the blast shield down.
Yeah, that was very brief, but I liked that.
Then they had the
chess,
chessboard.
yeah.
The chessboard was a little too,
Space chess.
yeah, a little too blatant.
a little
to me.
too in your face. Yeah.
One thing I'm worried about though is that there's other directors and writers coming in, but like if you look at like what J.J. Abrams has done, he makes really cool, awesome things, but he has a history of not making really strong villains. I mean, and when he has them, he kind of fucks them up. Like Alias had a good villain for a little while, and they messed that up. And then Lost was like, who could even figure what the fuck was going on with that? And in Star Trek more recently, the reboots for Star Trek, I love the new Star Trek franchise. I think it's incredible. But the first two movies, the villains. He took an amazing villain from the franchise and made him kind of pretty good, And then in the first movie, that Nero character was just like, he was like confused the whole time. Like he was just like lost, and it's like I don't think either one of those villains was really
And
good.
Felicity.
And Felicity had some tough villains too. How do you think Greg Grunberg feels about being the Porkins for a new generation?
Man, that's gotta be awful. It's like, yes, I'm in Star Wars. No, they're calling me the new Porkins. Like, terrible,
That
terrible.
totally separated me from Star Wars. Seeing him.
Really?
Yeah.
It did.
Totally.
All I could think of was Alias. And
Oh yeah, J.J. Abrams, you're always going to see
you know
Greg
that
Grunberg.
dude in the background on the computer.
They should've just-
And it's just like, oh, there he is.
Because Simon Pegg was in it, but you didn't know Simon Pegg was in it. He
Yeah,
was-
I thought that was really cool.
yeah. And they even masked his voice, but Simon Pegg was the guy that was like 1/2 portion. That was Simon Pegg.
Oh.
No way, really?
Oh, that character actually, that's the arm, like the holding back Ray.
Yeah, you can hear him. Come on, girl.
Yeah,
or whatever.
I recognize that. And Alan Tudyk was the sort of red shiny helmet waveform thing. He's one of the guys that was going to take Finn to the Outer Rim.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
And
really?
That was Alan Tudyk.
Oh, Daniel Craig was the stormtrooper that released her from the holes that got forced.
I like they kept the interrogation chair or apparatus. I love that they have basically the same thing
dental
again.
chair.
Oh, and they
Yeah.
also had the torture probe, and it's like wah wah wah.
I love that noise.
Yeah,
That sound,
it's
yeah.
so cool. Those were the cool, like subtle.
Hey,
Comics I enjoy.
Star Wars is like, I mean, it gets a lot of credit for the visual advances that it made, but sound wise, it's like incredible. Like the TIE fighters and like we were talking about earlier, communication stuff. That's that radio effect when the X-Wings are talking from X-Wing to X-Wing, or when they're overhearing it in the Rebel base and they're listening to the X-Wing chatter. I
like
love
a
that.
phaser effect.
It's so
It's
yeah,
great.
it's so
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah.
So fantastic.
So
Also
overall,
talks about like R2D2 having like a blend of real voices and electronics.
BB-8 does that
and that they
too.
kept trying to make electronic noises that didn't work. And so eventually they had a guy do more like a baby talk, and then they blended electronics into it, and then it was like, oh, that totally works.
I love that BB-8 even had the sad noise. I love that.
Before we end, I know we're about to end. Is there anything else that we haven't talked about that loose ends? I know Benicio del Toro is going to be the next one. He might be a villain, which is cool.
Benicio del Toro, really? Okay, interesting.
But who? What else is there though?
Who do you think would make a good villain cast-wise? Who would you cast to be a good villain?
A good villain?
Benedict Cumberbatch.
I Benedict Cumberbatch. Yeah, I would
fucking
totally
love
do
Benedict
it.
Good
Cumberbatch.
villain.
He's a good
great.
villain. He's in something. Oh, he's in Doctor.
He's in Doctor Strange. Everyone's really happy about that today.
No,
Super
nobody's
excited.
happy about that.
He's like on the cover of Entertainment Weekly. Like they're really trying to sell this movie.
You'll never meet anybody who's read more than like 3 issues of Doctor Strange. I listen. That's a whole different topic for the regular podcast. We'll talk about that tonight when we record.
Yeah, I got nothing.
What about Poe? Anything with him?
Oh, so yeah, I was going to mention Poe. They kind of lead you to believe in the expanded universe or extended universe that he's force sensitive. There's this whole storyline with Poe's mom helping Luke recover some force trees that were in the Jedi temple.
What?
And Luke takes one, and then Poe's mom takes one. They plant it outside their house, so you can kind of assume that Poe might be.
Doesn't everyone
sensitive.
though? Isn't that what everyone does with every character in the Star Wars universe? Is like there's a like it's like people like to ship characters with the Force. Like Han Solo was always like that. Oh, he used the lightsaber to cut open the tauntaun. He's force sensitive.
yeah.
He
does have good luck, and he's a great
He
pilot.
was cut open a tauntaun.
Oh, I want to see Kylo Ren and Phasma, and maybe I guess Daisy Ridley. Well,
I'd like to see Phasma. I'd like to see that character at some point.
I want to see Kylo Ren and Phasma. I want to see them pilot ships. Because if he is truly the grandson of Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker, two of the greatest pilots in the galaxy, he should not be flying around this stupid fucking shuttle. He needs to be piloting his own ship like a badass.
Yeah,
So
yeah. It's like
Maybe
even
that was
Darth
an
Vader.
Uber.
I
I need to ride down to Jakku.
Well, like
His
that
license yet?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
that shot with Poe where he's in the sky fighting off all those TIE fighters, and even later when they're like trying to bring down the shield generator or the what is it the
capa-
heat,
Oscillator.
heat oscillator?
Get right.
Is it the heat oscillator?
I bet if it's
And
on the sun.
they,
Chuck Jenkins?
when he's fighting there, that was the first time I felt like, okay, this is now we're seeing like real pilots. Like there was always cool shots in Star Wars of like X-wings banking and then fighting and all that stuff, but it's like if you look at like the episode 4, the trench run, and they're like trying to race for this port and fire a torpedo down it. It's like a guy's like, I can't hold him off back here. It's like you're not doing anything. You're flying straight. You're not holding anybody off. And then he blows up. It's like, yeah, you did nothing. You were driving forward while they came up behind you.
Well, they were a good distraction, right?
Yeah, I know exactly.
They killed those guys instead.
Bullet sponge.
So, and it's like, but now I got a feeling that they were like helping each other and like fighting with one another. I thought that was great.
Oh, there was one more little Easter egg that I saw that I thought was great. So when Rey, and I tweeted this last night, when Rey is sneaking around Starkiller Base in one of the hangars, she hears 2 stormtroopers saying like, "Ah, you seen the new T-17s?" Back when Obi-Wan is on the Death Star, in the shield generator area, he hears two stormtroopers talking about, "Oh, have you seen the new T-16s?" So it was like a cool little nod. But
There is a Wilhelm screen in this, by the way, but I didn't notice a 1138 reference. Did you?
113.
No.
I didn't catch it.
I
did
think
hear
there-
the scream though.
There is
I did hear the
some-
scream.
Where
yeah.
was it?
It's pretty early on.
Yeah, it's
like
when they were trying to steal,
Stormtrooper?
When they try to steal the TIE fighter at the beginning, Finn and Poe, and when they first get going and they get caught by the like
I think that's where it
tether,
is, yeah.
it's like it makes a little noise. And it also does that like that little noise. I don't know what noise. That's as close as I can get, but
I love that.
that one's in there too.
There's so many good moments. Like I love when Rey was like under the deck of the Falcon. Like that's some of my favorite scenes in Star Wars, where they're just doing anything they can to keep that ship running.
Yeah.
I just love it. I absolutely love it.
I bet there's an 1138 reference. So when they pull up Finn's information, his stormtrooper information on the Star Destroyer, there's all this stuff that's in like the basic language or whatever, and I bet there's Easter eggs in there somewhere. Maybe that it gives away his identity. I don't know.
I was a little sad they didn't say hunk of junk. And they said garbage.
That was the introduction of the Falcon was perfect.
That was so funny.
Cried.
But they could
yeah.
have used
Teared
different
up.
wording there, and it would have been exactly like it was in the previous movie.
It could have, but then they would have given
It
away the
would've given
reveal.
away-
Yeah,
Yeah.
people would have instantly known as Falcon.
Yeah, okay.
Like I was completely surprised by that.
Yeah.
By
me
the
too.
way, and what did they do that made it suddenly trackable anywhere in the galaxy by Han and Chewie? They pulled a tarp off of it and then flew it away, or was it just powering up?
Oh, right, like nobody knew it was there. It was just
Yeah.
sitting there. So why wouldn't they have been able to find it there?
I mean, they really had to make a lot of effort with the lightsaber, with the Millennium Falcon, of all these artifacts that got lost, to time. That
Well, and the Millennium Falcon's almost 100 years old now. Mm-hmm.
It's
so
gonna get destroyed.
It's a classic.
it's great that it got
seems-
stolen and stolen
Yeah.
and stolen. I mean, Han
it's
should
like
have
the
lost
equivalent
it.
of
right?
driving a
In
Model
some-
T.
Bet, yeah.
Right now, like if you were driving a car from 100 years ago, it would be like, what the fuck are you doing driving that?
Yeah.
Pretty sweet ride.
Yeah.
I like even it's like the funny thing with the Falcon is too. It's like this chain of all these people that stole it from him, and then it got stolen back, and now he ends up back with it. And it's like, but that's still not even the end of the chain because it's still Lando's ship, and I don't know who had it before Lando. Even it's like the ship just gets like passed from person to person. Whoever just like happens to like get in the cockpit is the owner of the Millennium Falcon.
Pretty much.
Great, by the way, best ever flight of the Millennium Falcon was in that Jakku scene. Was just incredible.
It was. I mean, and I think that's when I thought, like watching Ray pilot, I was like, oh, obviously she's force sensitive. She was such a good pilot.
Instincts.
Yeah, but it was 2-on-1, and she's a much bigger target.
Yeah.
She managed to, go in some tight
Those-
spots.
the
and-
parabolic arc she does.
Yeah,
at
that
the
little
end.
like stall.
Yeah.
It was good.
That was great.
Pretty dope.
All right. Well, I think we should wrap up.
I think we should too.
I think we had a good discussion. I love the movie. Like you said, I think it's really important to remind people that
That's a piece of shit.
that we come from a place of love.
Constructive, criticism here. Yeah.
I'm gonna go see it again.
Episode 8 is being
Talking
directed by
about it-
Ryan Johnson, who
very excited
directed
for that.
Looper and directed some of the great episodes of Breaking Bad towards the
Did
end
like
of the run.
Ozymandias.
Uh-huh.
And then 9 is gonna be the dude that drew Jurassic World. So
So far, we'll see.
We'll see. All right.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for watching and listening.
Bye, everybody.
bye.